So you hear a story like J. Paul Getty's.
Yeah.
I know you and I were talking about J. Paul Getty, you know, one of the richest billionaires. He built some incredible I've been to his museum in LA.
Sure.
And the criticism he gets when he died, what he did with his money. You know, everybody says that this guy was a cheapskate with his family. He was a terrible father. He left nothing for his kids, his boys. That's the terrible example of a father. What do you say about what he did?
I think there's a lot in terms of his own morality that was problematic in terms of,
yes.
you know, growing up. But I would almost err on the side of saying, let your kids figure it out themselves. Push them to find out who they are. Push them to find out what they've got to give to life. And it's not giving to life what you've created yourself. They have got to find it out themselves. And there are ways to do that. You know, I was talking to a young guy, you know, who's coming to Dallas tomorrow that did just that. We helped him to find his life separate from everything else in his family. And he's created a life. He had dropped out of 2 universities, was failing out of everything. And he's now engaged in life. He's actually going to come work with us and work with college students to try and help them figure out who they are.
To do what you're doing, working
to do
with
what
you.
we're doing.
Now, how wealthy was his family? What kind of wealth did his family have?
Family owns a major league baseball team.
Okay.
They own a major mutual fund. Combined family worth still probably around $10-12 billion. So
I mean, that's no limit. Whatever you want,
not.
you can get anything you want.
And they have, and they've met everyone, and they've been everywhere, and they lack nothing. Anything you want, you can have.
How much did this guy you're talking about get close to the breaking point?
Very.
I'm talking breaking point like killing himself. Like
we were called up to go to his home, with his mother's home in Vermont, to be able to get him out of his room. And he was locked in there, and we've got permission to share his story because he wants other young people to know he was strung out on drugs, everything imaginable, and he had just lost hope in everything. And when you're failing in school and you're failing in just in life in general, and nothing matters, nothing seems to make any sense, and then to come to him to ask him to start saying, well, what are you great at? What are you exceptional at? What do you know you can give to touch the life of another person with? And it wasn't trying to do the mental health thing. He had seen therapists, psychiatrists, he had seen everyone. It wasn't saying why you're broken, it's saying where are you strong? What's unique about you that you have when you understand it, you can impact the life of somebody else. And focusing on that, you know, one of the things we did within a year of that, he went to San Francisco for an internship. We were up in Vermont again, and we said, well, Charlie, when are you going? He said, well, next week I'm going. So I said, well, how are you going to get there? Well, I'll fly and my mom will ship the car. So I said, Charlie, you've got 2 days. You're going to get your car ready. It was Christmas in Vermont, ice everywhere. And I said, you're going to drive. You're going to get in your car and you're going to drive. He had never seen this country except from a jet. And it was one of the big things in his life that he simply drove across this country. He didn't even think was possible. It wasn't even something that ever. You tell me, go on a road trip. I've hitchhiked through Africa, through Europe. I've been to every state in the U.S. If I've got an opportunity to travel, I will. And he did. And it was one of the first major things that he began to do, where he knew he could do it without anybody else doing it for him. And he was in his early 20s by then.
What was his reaction afterwards to you when he did that? Like the conversation, what was it like?
He went to stay with his aunt, who is the president of a major mutual fund company. Up until this point, no one would ever hear from Charlie. He was quiet. He was this total introvert. Anyhow, he's going across country, and I'm being woken up in the middle of the night, pictures from the day. He's texting me as he's going across country. What is this place? He's going through Utah, and he's sending me pictures of the salt flats, and he didn't even know they existed. And and he gets to San Francisco, and we see his aunt a few months later in Nantucket, and she says, well, someone turned Charlie off. He can't shut his mouth anymore.
Wow.
But he had nothing to say in life before that. He now had life to share.